Are you someone who has created a lot in your life or have achieved a lot in your life and you feel like you've ticked all of the boxes in terms of achievement, success, and those kinds of things, and you're definitely on that path, yet you feel like there's a little part of yourself, your true self, that you're not quite still in touch with, that you've maybe lost it in the process? Well, in my experience of working in high pressure environments at BBC, at Spotify, and advertising agencies, this is something that's quite common. I felt it myself. I saw that I was on the kind of treadmill, so to speak, but I was losing a sense of myself and my own identity, so to speak. And it's something that I see with the clients that I work with who are high achievers, high performers, and they're very focused on their careers and what they're creating and what they're doing. But there's that little essence of themselves that's missing. So in this episode today, I'm going to talk about being an authentic leader and how to build success without losing yourself in the process. Welcome to In the Moment with me, Alex Manzi. I'm a coach, and having gone through my own journey of depression and burnout and anxiety and all kinds of things, it led me on to working with creatives, entrepreneurs, athletes, and helping people just rebalance their lives, get a sense of achievement in their life and work towards goals whilst creating inner balance for themselves. And this podcast exists to help you make positive changes in your life so you can create that exact same balance for yourself. So let's get into being an authentic leader and how to build success without losing yourself in the process. So it's very common amongst leaders, entrepreneurs, creatives to be measuring their success by external measures, by achievements, by awards, by promotions, by money made, money earned, by the next thing that's out there to be achieved. And what actually happens is these external measures become your self-worth. They become the kind of barometer of how you measure how successful, therefore how happy you are. And what happens is most people in these situations, especially the people that I come across, they lose themselves in the process. And when I say lose themselves, is their life becomes about the achievements, it becomes about the next thing, and they lose that authentic nature within themselves of who they truly are. And then something becomes unbalanced. And the typical kind of symptoms are, being someone who masks, expectations. So always trying to live up to an expectation, always trying to be the person who can, meet external expectations of yourself. Another classic symptom is losing a sense of values, losing a sense of what's important to you, what your priorities are, relationships, health, happiness. These things, tend to go out the window when someone is just going down this lane of just focusing on outward achievement. And the classic question that tends to get asked is people in the position get to a point where they just get a sense of like, is this it? I've created all of this, but I still feel empty. I still feel like there's something missing. Is this it? Like, when will all of this stuff that I'm creating, when will all of these achievements be enough? And this is the classic, like when it comes to high performance, high achievers, entrepreneurs, creatives, like it's such a classic thing that happens of getting to a point of like, okay, when I get to that point, then I'm going to feel all of these great things. And you get there and it's like, well, is this it? And the reason this happens is because, we're in a high pressure world, so to speak. Like there's a lot of expectation. There's a lot of stories we're told about, achieving great things and creating amazing things, is going to be the thing that leads us to happiness. It's a very external focused world that we live in. And what tends to happen is that we end up on the treadmill, right? And especially as men, we end up a lot of the time in our doing energy, which is, the working hard, the putting in the hours, the hitting the goals, hitting this, smashing that goal, getting to the next ceiling. And we spend so much time in the doing energy that the being energy is what gets neglected. And that's what we're going to be touching on today, is how to stay true to that being energy while still doing the doing stuff. And over time, when you're so focused on the doing energy, you can lose touch, right? And we want to get back in touch with the being energy. And this especially happens when you're not being intentional with, where you're giving your energy and aligning yourself to the things that are most important to you and the things that are truest to your values. So in my personal experience, having worked at places like the BBC, at Spotify for a number of years, I was so focused on chasing success. I was so focused on chasing, okay, what's the next big project? What's the next goal? What's the next career move and all of these things, that it led me down a path where I was just working hard and I was just focused on career and I was just focused on doing the best that I could do at work, but I was disconnecting myself from myself. There were other areas of my life that I wasn't as on top of, just, to put it in a nice way. And this disconnection from myself left me in a place where I just felt a bit lost. I felt a bit confused. I felt a bit like I didn't know why I was doing all of these things. I just kind of like ended up doing these things and I wasn't even sure why I was doing them. And it meant that, I was asking myself a lot of questions. And the kind of turning point came when I hit a wall of, I can't carry on like this. Like this can't be it. Like this isn't, like, I'm doing all this stuff and it's great work and I loved my job, but I didn't feel a sense of like true fulfillment inside, because there was that piece of me that was just not being, worked on, or was being neglected, is probably a better way to say it. So what it is, I took a step back and I had to assess my life. I had to assess my values. I had to assess the things that were important to me. And I started asking myself the tough questions, what is important to me? What are my priorities? What are my values? What are the things that are really important to me that I want to actually be focusing on alongside the stuff that I'm doing in my career? And the truth is, like, the transformation that I've been on and I still am on, it's not easy. It's hard. It's not something where you just wake up one day and it's like, okay, great, like everything's sorted, we're going to go. It takes work, it takes effort. And a lot of people don't want to face the effort. They don't want to put in the work to have the transformation on the other side. And they stay stuck in the place that they're in. And for me, it took a lot of self-reflection, as I said earlier. It took a lot of reading, a lot of learning, a lot of talking to other people, a lot of trying to understand myself better, receiving a lot of coaching as well to get clear on what I wanted, what was next for me, what was missing, what was I lacking, what did I feel I wanted more of. And I learned over the years, and still am learning over these years, is how to be true to myself while still building success, And as I went on that journey from BBC, Spotify, and working in social media and sort of those high pressure environments, my natural creativity started to come out. This is why I started this podcast 7 years ago. I started writing more, and then eventually wrote my book, which went out in 2020. I started coaching because people were seeing the things I was sharing and wanted help. And I started to see that these things were more true to the uniqueness of me and the value that I wanted to bring into the world. And I followed those paths, which have led me down a different path of success, but are more aligned to who I am. So what I want to introduce you to is 5 steps or 5 parts of a process that you can follow that will help you to build success without losing yourself in the process. So the first step is to reconnect to your values. And typically, most people have 2 or 3 core values that they want to live their life by. And I recently have sat down and asked myself, okay, what are my values again? And the ones that I've come up with are simple. It's peace, love, and creativity. Peace, as in peace and acceptance of what is, so not adding any subjective stories, but just seeing things for what they are, seeing the facts in the situation as it is. Love, as in compassion for all people and all things, and creativity, as in bringing ideas to life and helping others to do the same. They're my 3 core values. So you want to get clear on, like, what are your 2 to 3 core values that you want to live your life by. And you want to take time to sit and ask yourself this question and get clear on them, because they will inform the direction that you go in. So the second thing you want to consider is aligning your goals to your purpose. So the things that you're currently working on, do they align to your purpose? And don't get me wrong, purpose is a phrase that gets thrown around, right? And it's probably overused. But to me, what purpose means is, like, what's the things that truly light you up? Like, what's the thing that, like, when you're doing it, when you think about it, you have a shift in energy, right? To me, that's your purpose. So are your goals aligned to whatever that thing is for you? Now, for me, when I started my journey, my goal was, I want to feel happy, right? I want to feel fulfilled. And my purpose was, I want to express myself creatively, right? I wanted to just I wanted to feel like I was being authentic within myself. So the things that I started implementing as a result of that was daily meditation, to sit and be quiet and to get in touch with myself. Another thing was, as I said, like learning. So reading for 20 to 30 minutes every day, just in the evening or when I was commuting to work on the tube, I would read a book. right? Learn, like take in some new information, learn, like, and use that as an opportunity to reflect on, okay, what am I learning? What am I getting from this? What do I want to implement? And then just as another example, when I started my podcast, the first goal I had was like, can I get to 1,000 downloads? Like, once I get to 1,000 downloads, could I get to 5,000? Could I get to 10,000? Now the podcast is at, I mean, somewhere around 500,000 downloads. And that was a goal that was in line to my purpose, the purpose being me creatively expressing myself, but also learning, also hearing from interesting people in an intimate conversation. And the goal was, okay, can the podcast grow alongside it? So the third step, and this one's really important actually, is to self-reflect. Like, spend time in reflection. Like, find ways to measure and reflect on the things that you are doing. So for example, each Friday, I sit down at the end of the week, the end of the sort of mid-afternoon, which is the end of my working week, and I ask myself 3 questions: what went well this week? What could have gone better? And what's my focus for next week? And I reflect, and I spend maybe 30 minutes with those questions, and I sit and I write, and I look back at my week, I look at my calendar, I look at the conversations I've had, I look at the work that I've done, and I reflect on those questions, and I write up bullet points of, okay, what has gone well, what could have gone better, and given those 2 things, what do I want to focus on next week? And it gives me a level of clarity, not just of the things that I'm doing, but of what I can be doing moving forward. And it's an invaluable thing. And the next step for me is I want to take it to the next levels. And next year, going into 2025, I want to do quarterly reviews. So at the end of each quarter is review on the previous 90 days. Okay, what went well? What could have gone better? Where am I at? Right? What am I on track for? Okay, what needs to change moving forward? And do the same thing. So self-reflection is really important because it allows you to sit and ask yourself the questions of, where am I going? What's going on? What am I doing? Like, is this working? Is this not working? What needs to be changed? And it provides so much clarity and clear kind of actionable things that you can do to moving forward. The 4th step is to create better boundaries. So you want to create clear boundaries between work and play, right? For example, so when I say work and play, I mean work and personal life. So for example, for me, when I was working in advertising, it's a very like on-demand industry. People expect you to get back to them straight away and be across all projects like 24 hours a day. I made it very clear that once I'd left the office, I wasn't picking up my emails till the morning. And if I did have to reply to an email, I would just simply say, all good, we'll get on this in the morning. I wasn't going to sit and do something at 9 o'clock that couldn't really be done because no one else was working. So I had a clear boundary of like, look, I'm not working once I leave the office. When I'm in the office, yeah. And there's times, don't get me wrong, where that was a little bit more flexible around certain projects. But generally speaking, once I've left the office, I'm not doing work. I can check things, but I'm not going to action anything till the next day. And creating that clear boundary allowed me the headspace to focus on the other things that were important to me, like my health, my relationships, my creativity, the podcast, writing, stuff like that in the evenings. It's important also within, those boundaries to make time for your hobbies and self-care. So for me, self-care was exercise, and self-care was, making time to go for walks or to do things that I just enjoy just for the sake of it. Making time for hobbies, like for me, I've got probably 3 main hobbies, right? One of them is playing football on the weekends with my mates. That's pretty much something that I always make time for. The second one is I like to go cinema by myself. So when new films come out, I like to take myself on solo dates, go to the cinema and enjoy it. And the third one is playing PlayStation. If I can create time on a Saturday or a Sunday to just kick back and just play PlayStation for a few hours, like it really does like give me so much joy and energy. And I'm clear on that. So I make time of that. I have boundaries around these are things that I want to implement and do more of in my life. So I need to have a boundary between when I work and when I don't work so that I can do those things. And the 5th step, and this is the one that's probably maybe not necessarily the hardest, but maybe the most uncomfortable for most people, is to embrace vulnerability. Vulnerability is a strength. If you can show vulnerability, you're growing. If you can show vulnerability, you're showing your human side. And as a leader, as someone who maybe works with teams or someone who works with other people, you might be a solopreneur or a solo entrepreneur, but like you're still generally day-to-day work with people. So showing vulnerability and showing that side of yourself, that it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to get things wrong, it's okay not to always have things figured out, because the part of the journey is to learn. That is a big part of the journey. So if you're showing where you are learning, where you are growing and how you're changing, it requires vulnerability to be able to do that. And the most important part of it is it makes you relatable. People relate. Like there's so many conversations I have with clients or people who I'm just generally speaking with, and I share some of the things that have gone wrong or some of the things that haven't quite worked for me, and they're like, "Oh my god, like you're one of us." I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course. I'm not like some guru. I'm just a person who's on this planet, and I'm going through my own journey and I'm learning, but I'm being vulnerable enough to A, share the things that aren't going so well, but B, to own the fact that sometimes things don't go well so that I can be on top of them to make change." So to build success without losing yourself in the process, what it really requires is for you to authentically lead in your life. And what that means is to get clear on your values, to have goals that align to your purpose, and to ensure that you're making space and creating boundaries to prioritize your own well-being. These things are super important, and if you implement those things, you'll start being more connected to that true part of yourself, the part that feels like it's missing in just working towards achievement, meaning that you'll be able to achieve more, but do it in a way that's more authentic to you. So remember this: greatness happens when you're being true to yourself. And not only does it create greatness, but it means you do better work, and it means that you inspire others on the journey as well. So if you've enjoyed this episode and it resonates with you, be sure to leave a comment down below. In fact, leave a comment of one of your core values and what that is in the comment section below. Be sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on Spotify. And be sure to come and follow me on Instagram and Twitter, or X, whatever it's called these days, at I am Alex Manzi. Thank you for being here, and I will see you for the next episode.